Hello Stormwater designers, welcome back to Clear Creek Solutions hydrology education videos. We're continuing our series here, and now we're going to be going over reservoirs. What kinds of reservoirs are there, what they include, how they're utilized in the hydrologic system, and going over all those facets, and we'll be showing some pictures as well of what some of the forms they can come in. So let's get into the video here. First, an introduction. A water supply irrigation or hydroelectric project drawing water directly from a stream may be unable to satisfy demands of its consumers during low flows. So if you just simply have a straight water supply irrigation system, you may not be able to have consistent enough water flow to maintain all the different operations that need to occur, right? Especially in dry areas. So this stream, which may carry little or no water during portions of the year, right? Some of the summer months probably, a storage or conservation reservoir can retain excess water from periods of high flow and then use those during periods of drought. And so in addition to conserving water for some later use, the storage of flood water may also reduce some of the flood damage below the reservoir, so it may include some mitigation, right? So during these high output months, you're able to store some of that water, and then when we get to some of the drought times, it's able to then utilize it for the community, right? And on farms or ranches, stock tanks or farm ponds may conserve the intermittent flow from small creeks for useful purposes. Water is always being used, right, in different farm situations. Whatever the size of a reservoir or the ultimate use of the water, the main function of a reservoir is to stabilize the flow of water. So it's trying to keep a continuous flow, providing for the community, not have these large fluctuations where we have lots of water and then not enough. This can be accomplished by regulating the varying supply in a natural stream or by satisfying a varying demand by the ultimate consumers. So here's an example of maybe a more natural looking reservoir, right? Almost lake-like at this point, storing some of the water there. And here's one that's maybe more man-made, right? You can see it's basically a dam at this point, storing some of the water to be used for later during more drought-like months. And here's some of the characteristics. Since the primary function of reservoirs is to provide storage, their most important characteristic is overall storage capacity. So how much they're able to store. The capacity of a reservoir of a regular shape can be computed with the formula for the volume of solids, right? So just computing the overall volume. Capacity of reservoirs on natural sites must be determined from topographic surveys. So we got to survey it just like that picture I showed back here. That would probably require a topographic survey to determine how much water is actually stored in that area and then how you can regulate the flow of that water. An area elevation curve is constructed by planimetering the area enclosed within each contour within the reservoir site. And this is actually one that's much more flatter, right? So reservoirs, they can come in a variety of shapes and forms. It's more of a level elevation area, but it's still going to provide water storage for the community. Normal pool level is the maximum elevation to which the reservoir surface will rise during ordinary operating conditions. For most reservoirs, normal pool is determined by the elevation of the spillway crest or the top of the spillway gates. Minimum pool level is the lowest elevation to which the pool is to be drawn under normal conditions. The storage volume between the minimum and normal pool levels is called the useful storage. Water held below minimum pool level is dead storage. In multi-purpose reservoirs, the useful storage may be subdivided into conservation storage and flood mitigation storage. And then during floods, discharge over the spillway may cause the water level to rise above normal pool level. This surcharge storage is normally uncontrolled. It exists only while a flood is occurring and cannot be retained for the reservoir fills and drains out as the water level is lowered. This bank storage increases the capacity of the reservoir above that indicated by the elevation storage curve. And then let's talk about the reservoir yield. The most important aspect of storage reservoir design is the analysis of the relation between yield and capacity. Yield is the amount of water that can be supplied from the reservoir during a specified interval of time. The time interval may vary from a day for small distribution reservoir to a year or more for a large storage reservoir. Yield is dependent on inflow and will vary from year to year. The safe or firm yield is the maximum quantity of water that can be guaranteed during critical dry period. The maximum possible yield during a given time interval equals the mean inflow less evaporation and seepage losses during that interval. If the flow were absolutely constant, no reservoir could be required. However, as the variability of the flow increases, the required reservoir capacity increases. So that makes sense. As the variability of how much water is needed increases, we may need to increase the size of the capacity of the reservoir in order to meet that need. Given a target yield, the selection of reservoir capacity is dependent on the acceptable risk that the yield will not always be realized. A reservoir to supply municipal water should have a relatively low design yield so that the risk of a period with yield below the design value is small. So this is an example of an irrigation system that we're going to be going into here that can be set up to provide water during different periods. By contrast, an irrigation system may tolerate 20% of the years with yield below the nominal design value. Water available in excess of safe yield during periods of high flow is called secondary yield. Hydroelectric energy developed from secondary water, maybe domestic users, must be on a firm basis and should not exceed the energy that can be produced with the firm yield unless thermal energy is available to support the hydroelectric energy. Costs and benefits are evaluated for this economic decision with design. So that's an overview of reservoirs there. We're just doing a quick one. We have a hydrology terms guide you can download 100% free. It contains 4 pages of hydrology terms used in the industry or if you're studying for your classes. You can get that 100% free in the description. Just tell us where to send it. If you have any questions about this video, you can leave it in a comment. But anyways, we will see you guys next time.